that nobody else can create your own happiness for you. As a matter of fact, I think that if we all understood that, more couples would last in long-term relationships, because I know I used to think that my husband, honey, my happiness is based on you. You need to make me happy. And I'm glad that I overcame that because we still together. But no, nobody else can create the happiness for you. As a matter of fact, my number one keynote is called Pursuit of Happiness at Work and in Life. And I get booked for that keynote for audiences all over the country all the time, because I talk about 7 research-based ways and tools that you get to create your own happiness, because it's nobody else's responsibility to make us happy. Like, it's none. And it's interesting.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of We're Not Okay, a community of healing. As always, I am here, one of the co-hosts, Justin Stewart, and I am joined by my other co-host.
Dr. Antija M.
And we have a great, joyful conversation for you all today. We are excited to be joined by Dr. Kiki Ramsey, a positive psychologist, motivational speaker, executive coach, and CEO of the Positive Psychology Coaching and Diversity Institute. Dr. Kiki's work centers around emotional wellness, resilience, and human flourishing, helping individuals and organizations navigate stress, burnout, and change so that they can do the work they love and love the work that they do. With over a decade of experience in positive psychology, leadership development, resilience, and women's advancement, Dr. Kiki brings global insight and practical tools for thriving personally and professionally. Now, we already listed a lot of things, but did you also know that she's also an author, in which she's the author of Get Courageous Now and is also a regular contributor to Forbes? By the end of this conversation, we hope that you all that are listening and you all that are watching will be reminded that joy and wellness aren't luxuries, they are necessities. So, with all that, thank you again, Dr. Kiki, for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm so excited to absolutely be here. Yeah.
It's definitely a pleasure to you, or a pleasure to have you, a very joyful occasion to have you. So as
Yeah.
we kick off into the conversation, I know I mentioned in the intro this idea of positive psychology.
Mm.
Positive psychology. You lead with a lot of joy.
Mhm.
We are continuously steeped in everything but joy. So it's great that you have an expert in that state of joy when it comes to our healing. And I think also, even looking at your own background, your own upbringing, it may credit to you pursuing the career that you're in now. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Kiki, if you could educate us, educate me, what is the role of a positive psychologist exactly?
Well, Justin, I'm so glad you asked. So, first of all, let me just kind of, explain what positive psychology is. And to do that, I'm going to take everybody back to Psychology 101. So, when we talk about psychology, we really mean a deficit model. When we think about psychology, most of us think about depression, anxiety. We think about diagnosing people with illnesses and all of that. Well, if we think that way, then that's the baseline. So that's the baseline, which is deficit, which is, somewhat a little negative, but that's just what it is. So if we think about what's the opposite of that, the opposite is positive psychology, the science of happiness, thriving, optimism, gratitude. All of these words that I just named are rooted in positive psychology. And most of us just don't know it because we haven't, heard the name a lot, used, which is positive psychology. So basically, positive psychology is the study of what goes right with you versus only thinking about what's wrong with us, which is the way most of us work. It's the way most of the world works, is trying to fix problems and challenges and stuff like that. And so I study strengths in people. I think everybody has a superpower. I think everybody has a strength. And so that's the role of a positive psychologist, is to look at the good side and not just the bad side. Now, do we look at, what's wrong and try to help our clients figure out like how to move from that to something that they ultimately want, absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. But at the end of the day, you already have so many things that are good about you that we don't pay attention to. And so my goal is to really look at everything that's good about you and let's capitalize on that while we're working to help you overcome challenges.
I already like where this is kicked off. It's like you said, we're so sometimes we're so steeped in some of the negative aspects. It's always a thing of someone can give you a million and one compliments, but as
Yep.
soon as you have one negative comment or critic, it kind of just shuts you everything down. It's you hear 99 compliments, but that one negative critique is what takes everything away. So I'm glad that you did call that out. And I'm also glad I feel like you were in my head, which is good for this conversation as you were talking about superhero or superpower. So with this superpower that you have, obviously you have your own heroine origin story. So,
Hmm.
what about this work? What motivated you to become a positive psychologist? What led you into this field as opposed to doing something else?
Yeah, I think it's been a long time coming, of course, but my story started off with my mom. My mom, was addicted to drugs as I was growing up, and that was just, I mean, for anybody, but especially a child, that's a difficult upbringing. But as I went through all the things with her, I learned a lot. I went through a lot, and it ultimately led me to a place where I wanted to help her desperately overcome all of the challenges that she was facing with addiction and, just mental health issues, depression, all of those things. And as I grew up, I started focusing on that. Ultimately, my mom passed away from pancreatic cancer. And but I spent most of my time in my relationship still trying to help her overcome a lot of the things that she was going through. She was an amazing person. She has such amazing talents. My mama could cook, honey. Okay, like she would have, cook at a little store that she used to work at, and people would be lined up down the street to get a plate. And so she had all these amazing gifts, and she was able to do some of it, but there was much more that she ultimately could do. And I realized that for not just her, but for other women who were in, my community. And so I started, just having a heart to serve women and a heart to help women. And ultimately, I went through school, I got a master's in social work, and I, started speaking and pouring into the lives of women through keynotes and conferences and stuff like that. And then I found out about coaching and positive psychology, and then I started coaching women through those same situations, and ultimately really started doing that in organizations. And now, full blown, I'm a professor of positive psychology coaching because I believe that this model truly does help people. So, full circle, it started with my mom to where I am to now, to pouring into thousands of women's lives on a yearly basis and helping them through challenges.
Thank you very much for sharing that story with your mom. And I know that the joy that you just exude as you speak about her and the time that you all shared. And I think, given the experiences, there may be instances where, for lack of better words, I would say somebody may become hardened by those experiences. But I'm glad
Yeah.
that from what you've shared, you've taken it as an opportunity to not only find opportunities to pour into her when you could because of the fact of how she poured into you, but then poured into others. I guess
Yeah.
the last thing I'll ask is, with you being able to do this work, has it also been gratifying at all? Has it also helped you in your own journey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that this work it has grown me in so many ways that it's hard to explain. I think when I started off, like you said, how I went through and, I was able to overcome and with my mom and all that kind of stuff, that wasn't easy. And so part of that journey was very, 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 very hard. So throughout that journey, I learned to forgive. I learned to love unconditionally. All these things that I'm naming, I had to grow into over the years because when you grow up in a situation like me, you can get hard. And there were a lot of times that I was hard and that I was just discouraged and all that. But fortunately enough for me, I have the wherewithal to know that our challenges are meant to to grow us. And we can either learn from those challenges or we can fight the challenge and stay in the same spot, stay stuck, stay bitter, stay all the things. And I'm one of those lifelong learners. And so I want to learn from the challenges. It might take me longer than others on some challenges, right? Like, and so, but I think that for the most part, I've been able to grow and to learn. I mean, I can remember like just even growing up, I was mean. Baby, this Scorpio was mean as all get out, okay? And I can still have that little, like don't cross me kind of streak, but because of, all the things that I've learned about coaching and all the things that I've gone through, I've learned how to channel my emotions. And I take that anger and I channel it to something else that's different. And I can't say that for my earlier days. I would just kind of like outburst and, whatnot. So I have grown as a person. And also in terms of coaching, a lot of people want to become coaches so that they can help change other people's lives. And that's a beautiful and perfect reason why you should want to become a coach. But at the same time, coaching changes your life. So just the mere fact that I went through coach training school, I was able to get coaching on a regular basis. And just having someone there that you can talk to, thought partnership, when you're going through something, it literally makes you a better person. And so over this time, because I've had access to this community, this world, I've been able to be changed in a way that is beyond recognition if you knew me before.
That's the story of growth. I love it. I love
Yes.
it. I love it. I want to go back to when you defined what positive psychology is.
Hmm.
And one of the words that you mentioned was happiness.
Hmm.
And so I did a little research, and it says, according to positive psychology, you are happy when you feel as if your life is going well according to the standards you have chosen.
I like that. I like
I
that.
like that too. I was like, okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
bookmark that one. That was from the University of New Hampshire, by the way, if anybody's looking for that. And there was a meme, and I kind of reshare it often I posted it on Facebook years ago, and I tend to repost it every now and again. And it said, I had to look it up because I was like, I don't want to mess this up. Um, they're two stick figures, very beautifully drawn stick figures. And one is holding what looks like a picture that says like happiness, right? And the other one walks over to them and says, where did you find that? I've been looking for that everywhere. And the person who's holding the happiness says, I created it myself. And so it really makes me think about this idea of happiness because I know I've been in professional situations, I've been in personal situations where I outright said to people, I cannot make you happy. Because I think many times people feel like, well, if you just do this thing, if you just say this thing, you are going to make me, I cannot make you happy. And again, both in personal and professional situations, I think people are always expecting that from another person. But this idea of I created it myself with happiness, that's something that I cling to. That's something that I think of with happiness. So, as an expert, where do you feel like, or where do you see that it comes from? And I know it's a
Yeah.
big question, but
No,
like,
it's a beautiful question.
thank
It's
you.
a beautiful question, as a matter of fact. Um, and it's so funny that you went there because my new book, which will be coming out next year, is called Create Your Own Happiness. So, so it's so fitting that you actually just asked me that question. You are so right that nobody else can create your own happiness for you. As a matter of fact, I think that if we all understood that, more couples would be would last in long-term relationships because I know I used to think that my husband, honey, my happiness is based on you. You need to make me happy. And I'm glad that I overcame that because we still together. But no, nobody else can create the happiness for you. As a matter of fact, my number one keynote is called Pursuit of Happiness at Work and in Life. And I get booked for that keynote for audiences all over the country all the time because I talk about 7 research-based ways and tools that you get to create your own happiness because it's nobody else's responsibility to make us happy. Like it's none. And it's interesting because like in the beginning of my relationship with my husband, I really did think that it was his job to make me happy in this relationship. In order for us to last, in order for us to sustain, I thought it was his job. And for a minute, he thought it was his job too, until he realized it wasn't. And then he came home one day and was like, it ain't my job essentially to make you happy. I'm about to go make myself happy. Which was, him, saying yes to himself, going back to figure out what his career was going to be. He ultimately went back to school. And when he came in and said that, I was like, how dare you? Like, said, how dare you? But that was the beginning of something beautiful because I really learned that it's not his job. Why should it be somebody else's job who don't live your life to make you happy? That, if you think about it on like even the littlest of levels, it makes nobody's sense to do that. And so I started studying happiness and what truly makes us happy and started researching it. And there are a couple things that ultimately we can do for ourselves that can bring us ultimate happiness. And those are the things that I will be talking about in the book and I share in my keynotes as well. So very, very fitting, very fitting.
Almost like we planned it and we really didn't at all.
Oh, we didn't.
Wild. And I'm really glad that you brought up the fact that um you were able to get past that, right? Because sometimes you say that to people and they're like, "What do you mean? It's your job to make me happy."
Yep.
Um, and when I'm in those situations, I specifically remember a work situation. I remember saying, "Okay, these are the things that we talked about that you felt like you needed because you felt like you were unhappy in your position or your role, right? And then these are the changes that were made to make this better for you based on what you said you wanted.
Mhm.
Still not happy. Okay, then we made these changes. Still not happy. More changes, still not happy." And what I said to her at the end was, these are all changes I'm making for you, but they're not working. So clearly, it's not me that can make you happy. You have to think about what is truly going to make you happy. Um, and even though that's a really hard situation to have with a staff member, it changed everything I think for her because after that it was like she actually went to started going to therapy after that because she was just like, you know what? I need to really figure out what is it that is
Yep.
going to make me happy because I have been relying on this job. And the same as when you rely on people, what happens when the job goes away? What happens if the person goes away? If that's what your happiness was tied to.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because most people I do find that they don't know what makes them happy. Like they don't actually have an idea of number one what they want out of life, right? Because happiness is tied to a couple things, right? Like so you had the definition of like happiness. There's another definition and it's loosely based, but 50% of our happiness is based on our genes, like our internal DNA. Like the great philosopher Beyonce say, I woke up like this. Honey, half of us wake up choosing violence on a daily basis, right? It ain't that we can do about it. It's just in our genes. And so 10% is based on our everyday circumstances, like like just where we live at, like our just our circumstances of life. And then 40% is based on our day-to-day activities. So what we do on a day-to-day basis. So that's good news because essentially you can affect 50% of your happiness, which is great, great news. What you choose to do on a day-to-day basis absolutely helps. But most people get up and choose to go to a job that they hate on a daily basis because they think they don't have control over that situation. Now, yes, there are consequences to our actions, right? Like if you don't get up and go to work, chances are you ain't gonna get paid, boo. And that's a choice, right? That's a choice. A lot of people don't think that they have these options to look for another job, to ask for a promotion, to ask to get transferred to a position that, helps us better. But in order to do that, you gotta know. You need to know what that is for you. And if you don't know that, then there's an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity for you to get the help that you need, to talk to some people, to get coaching, to get therapy, to do whatever it takes, because can't nobody tell you what you need to do to figure out the rest of like your life in terms of what you want to do with your life. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Here at We're Not Okay, a community of healing, we've built a space where individuals can come together to process grief, manage stress, and share truths that are often carried in silence. Now, healing isn't only about conversation, it's also about getting the right support when you need it most.
That's where BetterHelp comes in. They connect you with licensed therapists online, anytime, anywhere. So you can get guided help from an expert in a supportive space you can trust. Therapy isn't just for the hard moments, it's also a tool for personal growth and development. And one of the best features of BetterHelp is that if you don't feel like that first therapist is the right fit, you can easily switch to a therapist that you truly connect with.
With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5-star rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform that you can rely on. It's something that you can trust. So visit betterhelp.com/ the not okay pod. Again, but it's going to be down here too. Betterhelp.com/ the not okay pod. And with that, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy. Because just like this community, you don't have to work through life's challenges alone. When you were talking about that, it just made me think of not necessarily the misery loves company thing, but kind of we get so steeped in a particular routine or a daily thing where we kind of think it's going to get better, think it's going to get better, but you're not necessarily doing any actions where it's going to allow it to become better. But it's almost like, this is fine. It'll get better. This is fine. It'll get better. No, it'll get better. Maybe next week, maybe next year, whatever it may be. And you try to have, whether it's affirmations or whatever, it's a sunny disposition, you kind of will yourself to, wake up to the next day. Um, but I think there can be areas where it could cause more harm than good. So as we're talking about happiness, I kind of want to look at the quote unquote negative side of happiness potentially, and really want to talk about this concept of toxic positivity. Would
Yeah.
never think that there's such a thing as toxic positivity, but there is a toxic positivity where for some, and I'll allow you to expound more, but just kind of excessive or ineffective overgeneralizations of happiness. So you just pull all these words. It's like, oh, I'm happy because X, Y, and Z, but in actuality, you're not really allowing yourself to push to that place where you need to be happy. You're kind of just bathed in these affirmations or bathed in these words. So I was hoping, just connecting with you, talking with you, could you help us and help our listeners look at the aspect of toxic positivity and how does that contrast to optimism?
Yeah, absolutely. Optimism is really that it's coming from this genuine place of hopefulness of like I really do want and think that this can get better. Toxic positivity is coming from a place of not necessarily genuineness. Like you are over positive, you're over, estimating like all these things, but you really don't necessarily deep down in your soul believe it's going to actually happen, right? But it comes off as everything is positive, everything is positive. Part of what I think with toxic positivity, it is almost a coping mechanism for some, right? Because we as people, a lot of times, we have to put on this face. We have to put on this mask of always being happy. And when you feel like that, I think that sometimes we can get into a dangerous place because either you don't feel like you have somebody to talk to, or you feel like that's just what's expected of you, in a sense. And then you see a lot of people who potentially, have a lot of toxic positivity going on, commit suicide, or, isolated because we are living in a world of extreme isolation, especially since COVID, and who don't have the belief that they can get it. So they, have a lot of imposter syndrome where we think that, everybody is looking at us like we're going to be found out. And so even though I may not feel like I know what I'm doing, or this might not be a happy situation, I'm going to say it's happy because people are expecting this from me. And I think that's a hard way to live, right? I think it's a hard way to live because there's always problems. People will look at me, right? Like my top strength is zest. I tell people, baby, I'm gonna always show up zesty because I can I can't help not to show up zesty. So people will maybe tend to think that you're always positive and you're always happy and bubbly. And I'm like, yeah, for the most part, until I'm not. And and I will show people my vulnerable side. I'm not like everything is always okay. I will acknowledge that we go through difficult and hard times. With toxic positivity, sometimes there's not even that acknowledgement that it's okay to be hurt. It's okay to not be okay, right? With toxic positivity, it's not okay to not be okay. You need to be okay. Like it's just what it is. And so, of course, I as a professor, as a coach, I fight against that because I think that we have to show up authentically, in our being, and not everything is always happy. As a matter of fact, some things suck, and some things hurt, and that's okay. That's okay.
And it's an interesting discussion because we talk about like the workplace where you may be a leader or a supervisor.
Mhm.
We talked about it earlier with you and your husband, and maybe your husband is an overly po or I won't say you shouldn't say overly positive. He's a super positive person, so you kind of want to match his fly. Or you may think of it as a person that has kids, and again of how you have to show up. Like you may I guess it's that internal struggle of kind of not wanting to suppress because you want to show up for your child, but you don't want to show your child a specific version of yourself just because they shouldn't have to deal with that. But by suppressing it, as you mentioned, it comes out in more ways than one. And by continuing to like project this, oh, everything is happy, everything is great, and then you may go talk to somebody later like, oh, no, I just posted that just because, or I'm caught up in the wind of social media of I'm using that to broadcast or use that to say everything is happy, everything is great, post, but then everything is terrible. So sometimes I think of that struggle of if you're an individual that is operating in the workplace, if you're an individual that operates as a significant other, as an individual that operates as a parent, like kind of trying to juggle that as well.
Yeah, it's it's always interesting, especially when we talk about our kids. I think we do our children a disservice when we don't show them real emotions, when we don't show them when something's wrong, when we don't show them, when things hurt or when things are hard. I'm not saying you want your kids to know that every single thing that you're going through, because I do think the sign of healthy kids are healthy parents, right? But at the end of the day, I think a healthy parent is a parent that can be themselves around their kids, who can cry, who can, allow your children to see you be emotional, and then they say, "Oh, mommy is this was really emotional for mommy." My daughter is an empath. She is very empathetic to other people, especially if something's going on with her brother and he's really hurt. My daughter's crying, all those things. And I let her know that that's okay. It is okay to have these feelings, and it's okay to see mommy cry. because I think that's what makes us healthy. I think it's the same thing in the workplace, right? I'm not telling us to go cry and just be all torn up in the workplace, but I am saying that those leaders who are more vulnerable in the workplace are also more successful at the end of the day. I know I'm the kind of leader. I lead a team. I lead a team of 20 plus coaches and staff and all that. And my team will see me cry in a minute just because it is who I am. And they'll also see me super happy. They also see me mad as hell if I'm mad. And so I show those emotions because I think it's healthy to do. But I don't think a lot of people are in a space sometimes where they feel safe enough in the organizations to be completely who they should be or to be able to show up authentically in all of their emotions.
It's like the having permission to show up as a human
That part.
at your, right?
That part.
Right? 'Cause I'm just like, those are normal emotions that we feel outside of this job and we can feel them inside of this job, right? Yeah, sometimes if you see someone crying or you hear about someone who's cried at a job, the thought is automatically like, oh, that's so unprofessional. They could have pulled themselves, they could have did that in the bathroom or went to their office or something like that, or waited till they got home. But I think, especially as someone in a leadership role, I know they are looking to me sometimes to see how I'm reacting. And if you do kind of just act like, it's fine, no big deal. And they're literally falling apart. Then it does kind of not, it's like we're not really matching energy right now. And sometimes you sort of need to show that yes, I understand. Like it almost gives a level of empathy to people when you can show that, yes, I understand what's happening is really rough and hard, and we should maybe talk about that a little bit. And it makes me sad as well, right? Like, and I think some of my best supervisors that I think back on as you were talking, and Justin was speaking, really made me think of like they were the type that I was like, wow, this person's about to shed a tear, like a genuine tear though.
Mhm.
Like that's another part of it, a genuine tear. Like don't cry when you know you about to lay off a bunch of people, but you know you're gonna keep your job and you okay with it. Like we're not gonna cry about that.
That part. That part. Okay. Yeah, it's called
Oh,
modeling vulnerability. That's what it's called, right?
mm,
Modeling vulnerability. And if more leaders were to model vulnerability, then teams would be better, organizations would be better, everybody would feel better. Yeah.
absolutely. So the next thing we want to get into, because every time we start talking about something, I'm like, I could talk about this for another 25 minutes, but I gotta get to the next thing I really want to hear about. And so one of your books, I know you have one coming out next year, but one of your books that you currently have is Get Courageous Now, A Woman's Guide to Finding Her Passions and Purpose in Life. And that book is a self-help book designed to help women overcome fear and discover their life's purpose through personal stories and practical exercises. And I find that a lot of people are very fearful um, in ways that prevent them from growing, both personally and professionally. And many times that fear, I mean, it just stays with people so for so long that they find themselves looking back on the life that they've created, I guess, right? To go back to that, with a lot of regret.
Yeah.
And so I know that you focus on this in your work. What have you seen have been like, I guess, the most common areas that people tend to be fearful of, or that tend to like really kind of hold them back?
Yeah, it's interesting because I just completed a book club with a group of women, and the theme of it's the theme around needing help, but not asking for help that that gets women so up in arms and are just fearful, right? Because the thought is, oh, I need help, but I'm ashamed or my pride is, in the way. So I don't know how to ask for help. And so because I don't ask for help, I am in a bad situation. I don't have what I need to be able to move forward. I ain't asked nobody for a job, for a letter of recommendation. I'm too scared to ask for money. I'm too scared to ask for a raise or a promotion. I mean, you name it. These, women are just, too scared to kind of ask for what we need or what we want in life. Therefore, we stay stuck in a situation that could have been prevented if we just opened up our mouth and got the support that we need. And we had this whole conversation about most people think this way. So many women think this way. I mean, I've been in sessions so much and I'm like, well, did you ask? Oh no, I didn't ask because I knew what they were gonna say. How? How you know? Like who like they told you like before you asked, they told you what they was gonna say, right? And so we just get into this and I'm like, this is more about we've been traumatized so much that we need to be strong and we need to do all these things ourselves that we've forgotten that there are communities. There are people who would say, "Oh, I got you. Oh, you need that? I know somebody." And I think that if we could get out of our own way and just really go after the things that we want and ask for the things that we need, we would be in such a better place. One of the things that we fear the most is the fear of the unknown. We, boy, and so I'll tell my clients, I'm like, listen, if you were supposed to know, your name would be God, but it ain't. And so we're not supposed to know. Our job is to just put one foot in front of the other, no matter how small that step is. That's just our job. And trust that things are going to work out ultimately the way that they're supposed to work out. But it ain't going to work out if you don't put forward the effort that you're supposed to put. You got to bring your half. We all got to bring our half. And so I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I see in terms of fear is the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, and the fear of success.
That last one is definitely a mic drop moment. The fear of success. The fear of success. What if it works out? Then what?
What if it does? Then what will I do? It's so funny because when I say that and when I teach on, the fear of success, so many women are like, oh my God, like, oh my God, I am scared if I become successful. What will happen? What will happen to my life? What will happen to my friendships? What will people say about me? Right? Because even I had to deal with that in my own life because I came from nothing, right? Like in the sense of like, I mean, I was sleeping on the couch in the crack house. We lived in the projects. So baby, when we say bootstraps, that's what we mean. And now I'm sitting in a place where I'm blessed and I can bless others. But I even think about it like, okay, I'm a somebody gonna see me in this car. What they gonna say about me? Somebody gonna see me in this house. What they gonna say about me? They gonna think I'm being like I'm too much or whatever. And I had to overcome that for myself because see, I like nice things. Okay. And so I had to overcome what that was or what I felt that was gonna be in my own world because we can tend to sabotage ourselves because we fear success. We also fear sometimes, but what if I can't handle it? What if I'm not good enough? What if people find me out, right? And I've seen so many women sabotage themselves, and I'm like, you just sabotaged your whole chances of this beautiful thing happening to you because ultimately you were scared if you succeed and you didn't know what to do with that. It's deep, deep.
Well, I feel like you're telling my business all through this podcast today. My gosh, like I will tell this really, really quick story. When I was in my early 20s, I worked at a college in the Bronx. And I remember I'd been there for so long, just teaching part-time. And the department chair was about to move on to another institution. And she was like, you know what, you'd be great for this position as department chair. And I was like, I'm like 24 years old, I'm not be anybody's supervisor. And then what is going to happen then? I'm not ready for that kind of job at this age. And now, like at this age I am now, at this very big age I'm at now, I'm like, man, what would my life had been had I
Hmm.
taken advantage of that opportunity to be a department chair in my early 20s?
Ooh, wow.
But it
I
was
mean,
the fear of, I can't do this, not at this age. Who's going to take me seriously? So,
yeah,
yeah.
it is. I mean, I truly believe our steps are still ordered. You got to where you need to be, and within life, but we do use that excuse. We use age. We use knowledge, but somebody else saw it in you, right? But you didn't see it in yourself. And what could have happened? Whose life could you have changed by being the example of what it looked like to be a department chair at this age? Those kind of things make others say, "Oh, that's possible. That's possible for me," right? Recently, there's this term that I am like trying to be accepting of in my spirit because I'm hearing it more and more often right now, and several people have said to me, Dr. Kiki, you the blueprint. What? Are you, huh? The blueprint. And so I'm sitting with the fact that more than one of my students and clients have told me I'm the blueprint for what they want their life to be like. And I'm like, okay, but didn't I work for this? Didn't I go after all the things that I wanted to do? And so why wouldn't I be the blueprint? But it's still a different story to take it in, to feel like, okay, God, you make me okay. Like, so I'm still here, you know, taking this in, because what does it mean to be the blueprint for somebody else, for them to see you and then to say, I want to be like you, or I want to be better than you. But because you did it, I know that it's possible. And you look like me. So I really know it's possible to do it. So I just want us to, when we're thinking about this whole thing about success, I think that we don't understand that there's so many people who need us to be successful so that they can be successful. It gives them the permission, even though most people don't need permission, but we looking for it, right? We looking for it. So yeah,
As you say that, and as I just recap and just put everything that you and Antija have been talking about, makes me think of three specific things that I wanted to share. So the first thing from our conversation to this point is what fear is costing you. The second thing is forgiveness, the missing piece to your happiness. And lastly is what would happen if you stopped thinking it should be easy? So those very, very great phrases actually coming from a very great place that I want to talk about next, and that is the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show, your own podcast. So, of course, we want to celebrate your milestone of recently going over 100 episodes. Definitely a great milestone. And as we've had today's conversation, as you've continued to have your other conversations with individuals and organizations, this is yet another place for you to pour into others. So, we were hoping to take this time a little bit more to talk more about that platform. What made you be like, okay, this is something that I can do through this journey as well, through a platform or through the podcast space? And how has that experience been for you?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I mean, so many of us are now being able to voice, our opinions and just our worlds on podcast. And I love this platform. Like, I'm so grateful to be here with you all on your podcast as well. And what's interesting is, as I've, over the years try to figure out, like, how can I best serve and best pour into people and share other people's stories, share my teachings, share all these things, in the podcast came to mind. And I think I told y'all, in the pre-show before this that, move over, Dr. Phil, honey, because Dr. Kiki is here. And so I ultimately, at some point in my life, want my own potentially nationally syndicated talk show. And I don't know what that'll look like at some time. Somebody know somebody, hey, reach out. That kind of thing, right? I don't know what that looks like. But until that happens, why should I wait? Why should I wait? I think the podcast platform gives anybody who has a voice and something to say a space to say it. And I grappled with calling it the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show because ultimately, if I did get a show, I wanted to be called the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show, right? But I'm like, also, why should I wait? And I'm saying that to everybody because we wait on so many things because we think that these other things are going to happen. So whether I ever get a nationally syndicated show called the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show, I have it now. So I have vowed to stop waiting on things in my life, especially things that I know that I can do in the moment by some other means. I'm not going to wait. And when somebody rolls up on me, they can give me money for the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show podcast, or it can be syndicated. There's so many things that can happen. And instead of me trying to foresee the future, let me do it now. And so I launched the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show podcast probably like 2 years ago. And like you said, we just hit over 100 episodes, which is wild to kind of think about. And I'm like, I've been doing this and I've had amazing guests. I've been able to share my teachings. The numbers are amazing. And as you know, sometimes the audience for podcasts are different than the audiences for like YouTube and, Facebook or Instagram and stuff like that. And I find it so fascinating to have this other audience that are like downloading and listening to the things that I say. And it's just been a beautiful experience to have a platform where people want to hear the conversations that you're having with other people and also your teachings and stuff like that. So I love it so much.
Well, we are very happy that you chose to be on our podcast. And for those who maybe are not tapped into the Dr. Kiki Ramsey show yet, but want to reach you, how would they reach you? Because that's one thing I don't think we've talked about yet.
Yeah, so I can be reached, of course, on my website. So that is drkiki.com is the website. And then you can reach me on any of the social media platforms. I hang out on them all. The Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show is on all podcasting channels. And so that can be downloaded anywhere, anytime. I hang out a lot on LinkedIn because that's where the corporate girlies is at. And that's where I be at. But I'm very accessible. Everything for me is Dr. Kiki Ramsey something, right? In terms of, so you can find me on all social media platforms and hit me up on the DMs.
And we will drop all that in our show notes, both on YouTube and when we release our audio episodes. So, something else that I saw as an opportunity for people to connect with you is through Thrive 26, a women's conference. So can you tell us a little bit? Is this the first year for the conference? Have you done this conference before? What can
Yeah.
people expect if they attend?
Yes. So no, we had Thrive 25 Women's Conference this year, and it was dynamic. I'm gonna tell you, I got a word from God to do the Thrive 25 Women's Conference, and I was like, no. Because conferences are hard. Conferences can be difficult to pull off, especially the kind of conferences that I like. And, I'm going to put out something superior in terms of just the experience. And so I got the word and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. But as it came up, I was so discouraged just about a whole bunch of things. And I was like, I don't know why I decided to do this. But at the end of the day, it turned out to be a life-changing experience for all the women who descended, in Atlanta, Georgia for that conference. And I was blown away, honestly, because I did not think that I was going to do the conference again. As a matter of fact, I even told the audience, I don't know if this is happening next year. And they were like, please, 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 please do this conference again. So here we are, Thrive 26. We'll live to see a day in Atlanta, Georgia, July 10th through the 12th. And Thrive 26, or my Thrive conferences, are all about helping women elevate in their careers and their businesses. I am pretty big on abundance, and I'm big on sharing strategies and tools for us to advance and elevate. I think that we have so much to give to the world, but our thought processes are the things that hold us back from moving forward and showing our brilliance in the world. And so that's what the conference is all about. This year, we've added a pre-con to the conference, and it's going to be for coaches who want to learn how to make the kind of money that they deserve in their coaching businesses. And so I'm teaching the nitty gritty on how to really become a seven-figure, eight-figure coach. And I'm opening up my playbook, what I've used to become so successful in this industry, to other coaches. And so that's the pre-conference. And then we have the rest of the conference where I'm sharing all the other tools and strategies to help anybody in business, anybody elevate in their career. And so I'm very excited about that. We also have Sunday brunch, where we have an inspirational message that comes to us, from, some a pastor or someone who is inspirational. So there's an air of just, what we need when we need it at this conference. My goal is for you to walk away with the tools and the skills and the strategies necessary for you to go into the office and ask for a raise, or for you to, say, you know what? My time is up here. I'm about to go figure out my purpose in life and be happy and find the job that really works for me. Or for you to say, oh, it's time for me to grow this business, or it's time for me to start this business. And so that's what Thrive is all about.
And one of the things that I really enjoy about conferences, symposiums, summits, etc., is the idea that you're going to be in community with other people who are hopefully also working towards similar goals, right? And so there's obviously this great message that they're going to receive from you and these wonderful tools, but then also being able to get that support from the other people that are there, is always like, I think, the biggest like benefit.
It really is. And from last year, there are like they formed a whole group amongst themselves from this past conference, that they're still, talking and, encouraging each other because they found the connections that they needed at the conference. Yeah.
It's hard to believe, but we are almost done with our conversation. So before we get to the last question, I did want to give you the opportunity to share if you have any other upcoming projects or, opportunities that our listeners, viewers, can get involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. So look out for the book. Of course, it's coming out next year, and I'm really excited about it because I'm really excited to share some research-backed ways that you can create your own happiness. And then starting in January, I am launching the Dr. Kiki's monthly coaching call. The reason why I'm doing this is because I talk to so many women, and I know so many women who need that support on an ongoing basis, and we just don't have nowhere to get it from. We don't have people who we necessarily trust to give it. And we everybody ain't on the up and up when it comes to this industry called coaching. There are a lot of people out here who say they're a coach and they ain't never been to coach training school. They don't really know what coaching is, honey. And I'm like, I really want to help women, and so that they don't get into this game, this, predatory professional development game. And so I am like, you know what? I'm going to do something new. And I'm going to launch the Dr. Kiki's monthly coaching call where we're going to be coaching around amazing topics. We've already planned out the entire year. It's stuff like how to overcome, how to develop your money mindset and overcome the poverty mindset. Because listen, we have a lot around money. We have a lot of thoughts around money. We're talking about how to overcome the imposter syndrome, how to really find the job that makes you happy. Like we have so many topics that I think are going to be super relevant for us women. And men can jump on the call because it's not just for women. I know I say women a lot just because I love women. But men men are welcome to these calls. And as a matter of fact, I already know several men who are going to be on the calls. But that's what's coming up in the new year.
Well, I hope you are taking the time to enjoy as much break or as much rest as you get, because as you go to a new monthly coaching call, a book, second annual conference, it's going to be a lot going on. And we just appreciate again having guests like yourself that give as much as they can, whether it's to those that you're working with professionally or obviously whenever you're doing personally. So we above all else are very appreciative of the joy that you put in everyone else's life or the happiness that you help lead them to. Because we
Yeah,
can't give people happiness, we can just lead them to how to find their own happiness.
that's right.
So as we come to a conclusion, I think what we want to know more than anything else, since we've already been enough of your business, Dr. Kiki, what's most important to us is when it comes to what are the moments that make you the brightest, the moments that make you shine. What are the moments that bring you the most joy?
Honestly, it is spending time with my kids, my husband, and my grandbaby. I mean, to me, family is so very important. And I love nothing more than just sitting having a conversation with my children because they funny. And I'm like, what you talking about? And then, those moments when, me and my husband are just, in this awesome like conversation and we clicking on all cylinders. And then, the moment I get to see, my oldest son and, him interact with his son and my grandbaby, and we all just laughing and just spending time with each other. Those are the moments that I live for. Those are the moments that make me the happiest out of anything. You can take all the rest of this away. As long as I get to keep that, we good.
Thank you very much again for sharing that. And thank you for the chat. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for the dialogue. Thank you for the dose of happiness for us. Thank you for
Yeah.
the dose of happiness for those that are listening, for those that are watching.
No,
Nothing
thank
else. Thank you very much, Dr. Kiki.
thank you both for having me here. It's been such a beautiful pleasure. The conversation is always, it was on point. I think is what I needed as well. And so I appreciate you both.
Of course. And for those that are listening, those that are watching, the conversation continues after the conversation has ended. So let's keep having this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.